Last week we took a look at how Netflix tried to hijack your horror fix with a manufactured moment to pollute your feed. All to distract you from your next obsession. But this week the machine is back to strangle your comedic relief. How has Netflix been able to take the most premium decadent nut out there and turn him into Dubai chocolate? And why is finding a real tactile connection or fighting tooth and nail over a lost messy dream the only actual ways to find yourself genuinely smiling in the dark?
Getting old sucks.
The modern dating app is the ultimate corporate streaming machine applied to human flesh. It's completely sanded down the tactile friction of human connection and replaced it with a hyper-optimized, low-retention user interface designed to maximize engagement metrics, not results. We've taken the messy, terrifying, high-reward reality of making physical eye contact in a pub and gamified it. Human beings are now disposable thumbnails. The UI falls as an illusion of choice, triggering a paradox where you swipe away at the first hint of actual human complexity because a frictionless option is just a millimetre away. And worse, it punishes genuine vulnerability. It forces everyone into the exact same performative armour: dogs, travel hotspots, desperate blurbs. I have not been single in the era of the algorithm, and looking at it from the outside, it's science fiction to me. The idea of trading the lightning bolt reality of physical chemistry for manufactured focus group banter in a text box is terrifying, which is exactly why finding Emily feels like such a massive shock to the system. This film refuses to play the algorithm's game. It drags you out of the frictionless void and drops you straight into the tactile grit of reality. Real Manchester locations: Canal Street, Stoller Hall. The soundtrack bleeds Manchester, Joy Division, Black Grape. At the centre of it, Spike Fearn is playing Owen, and if they don't cast him in some inevitable Oasis biopic, it's a criminal failure of casting. He's the spitting image of Liam Gallagher, unibrow and all, and he's the absolute heart and soul of this movie. If he doesn't stick to performance, the entire thing collapses, but he anchors it. This is a high concept rom-com. Sure, you know where it's going, but the core interaction here isn't a digital swipe. It's incredibly high friction reality of meeting a girl in a club, experiencing 20 minutes where time physically stops and nothing else in the world exists, and the inciting incident: exchanging numbers and missing a single digit. It's lo-fi, it's tactile, is a real world consequence that an app is designed to prevent. I sat in a cinema screen with 5 other couples. It was the obvious counter-programming choice for partners dragged away from the sold-out Mandalorian and Grogu IMAX screen down the hall. But here's the truth: there was more genuine audible laughter and reaction from those 10 other people in the dark than in the entire Disney megachurch down the hallway. Focus features and working title are heavy hitters for a reason. This isn't 4 weddings and a funeral, but it doesn't need to be. It's a charming, inoffensive 110-minute reminder of what actual human connection looks like before any kind of UI took over. But we only get those 110 minutes of relief before the machine pulls us back in. Last weekend, right next to the tactile reality, is the frictionless void of the Netflix gut bucket, and this week the algorithm isn't coming for romance, it's coming for divorce. Enter ladies first. Look, divorce is one of the most painful, devastating human experiences imaginable.
Alright, we're back again with another divorced dads. Let's see what we get. My bad knee. Table for one.
In the past, cinema channeled the agony into art, but the modern streaming ecosystem doesn't want artists to channel friction. It actually wants to use their financial desperation to buy their labour for safe, frictionless content. We're in an era of artists having to support their paychecks, their divorce paychecks. We watched Ewan McGregor sleepwalk through the Disney Plus Obi-Wan series for a paycheck, and now we're watching Sacha Baron Cohen, a generational fearless comedic genius who used to literally risk his life for his art. He's clocking in now to a sterile Netflix content mine. Ladies First is supposed to be social commentary, but instead it's like a paint-by-numbers spreadsheet. The script is quite literally replace the word male with female. That's the entire joke. For 92 agonising minutes, Victoria's Secret is now Victor's Secret. Motherfucker, fatherfucker, Harry Potter, Harriet Potter. Continue ad nauseum. It's a Saturday Night Live sketch that's been dragged out back and beaten to death by a committee of executives who think they're being incredibly brave. It's not real satire, it's smug, wink wink, algorithmic slop. Physically, looks awful. I know this kind of broad comedy doesn't normally demand a technical assessment. If the jokes land, you don't care what lens they use, but when the script's this tedious and the actions are this laborious, your brain has to find something else to do just to survive the runtime. I found myself just staring at the shot composition, trying to understand what on earth they were thinking. They shot this on wide-angle lenses for absolutely no reason, resulting in this incredibly distracting, soft focus on the edge of the frames. Every single wide shot is packed with distorted visual noise. I think it's there to trick your eyes into thinking there's momentum, hoping you won't notice there's absolutely nothing going on in the story. It's the exact opposite of Finding Emily. Where Emily gave us tactile reality, Ladies First gave us ultimate frictionless void. It takes a high concept premise, what happens when you flip gender dynamics, and executes it with all the depth of a corporate diversity seminar. They brought an artist's soul, and they ran it through the machine to keep your eyes on the app for another hour. And that leaves only one target left for the corporate machine to sanitize, and that's the soul of the artist. Almost 20 years ago, John Carney made a film called Once. It was shot on pocket change, and it treated a song like a living, breathing character. The music in that movie was born on the street, recorded in a cheap living room, and required massive, messy human friction to create. It was the purest representation of sincere art. And thank goodness Hollywood was able to swallow it up and give it an Oscar for Best Song and make it a data point. Power Ballad is the same writer and director, but it comes from an entirely different angle. If Once was about the friction of creating art, Power Ballad is about the corporate machinery built to sanitize it. John Carney is looking at the exact same algorithm that ruined our dating apps and pumped out Ladies First, but he's showing us how it infects the music industry. Like Once, this is the story of a single song, but it's the complete opposite end of the machine. It's a light-hearted film on the surface, but it does scratch deep enough to pose real questions about what we do with our dreams. You have one end of that, which is Paul Rudd playing a guy in his 50s who essentially gave up on his own dreams to start a different dream, his own family. On the flip side, you have Nick Jonas playing the exact product of the corporate algorithm, a boy band star who found the fame, he found the money, but he's suffocating under the machine, struggling to find the friction needed to push his dream into credible solo territory. The collision happens over a single night of hanging out and writing. A song that Paul Rudd shares suddenly spins into an absolute corporate beast that leads both men to question the very nature of what it is they want. There's a fantastic little cameo in this film, directly calling back to Once, serving as a stark reminder of just how powerful that original raw acoustic friction was. The central song in Power Ballad is good. It better be, you're going to hear it many times, but it doesn't quite have that same lightning in a bottle snap, largely because it lacks the raw, unpolished voice of the original singer, the heart and passion coming through in the cracking of his voice. Instead, we get a literal sound of the algorithm at work. There's like auto-tuned audio from both Nick and Paul, a little bit distracting at points. The machine adds corporate polish to something that would have been infinitely more effective if they just left it raw. But the film survives that because, much like Finding Emily, it's anchored by tactile reality. If Manchester was the beating heart of Emily, then Ireland, Dublin specifically, is the soul of Power Ballad. The supporting cast don't feel like focus grouped NPCs, they feel lived in, they feel real. And that tactile reality extended right out of the theatre itself. Unlike the sterile Disney megachurch showing Manda snoring, the laughs here actually landed. There was a woman sitting in the row behind me who found a particular affinity for the Irish character Sandy in the film, and as the film went on, her laughter took on a relationship of its own. It became part of the experience, a genuine unscripted connection forming between a stranger and a piece of art in the dark. You can't code that into your streaming apps. If you want to actually feel something, if you want that genuine ear-to-ear cinematic smile, you have to actively seek out something far away from the safety of the UI. I saw Power Ballad as part of a free BFI escape screening designed to drive word of mouth for the film but highlight places to watch movies away from the multiplex. My destination was a tiny independent 4-screen place called the Island Cinema in Lytham. It was my first time there. It was a place where you sit in actual armchairs and a Coke cost £2.50 instead of a second mortgage. And when the credits rolled, I walked out of the tiny cinema and onto the South Promenade, and I watched the sun setting over the shoreline, and I was humming the tactile messy song I just spent 2 hours fighting for alongside Paul Rudd. I realised something. I was genuinely smiling because for one more night, Netflix couldn't scrape my soul for data points. The machine wants to sanitise the friction out of everything we love. Our job is to log out, walk out the front door, and find cinema that refuses to let it happen.
Would you like to know more?
Movies, popcorn.